Ever wondered what these cricketing terms mean? I enlisted the help of former Indian cricketer Dasgupta to explain from a batting perspective. Let's go.
Well, crossbat is something obviously where we trust our basic natural instincts and go across the line. We get to see that very often nowadays in T10s, T20, the shortest format of the game, where a lot of batters, they play across the line. This swing comes naturally to us, and if you look at the big sixes, more often than not, if you look at those wagon wheels, you'll see those would be square leg or mid wicket, which is your crossbat shot. So yeah, one thing, you've got to still play it, because obviously we're talking about strike rates here, scoring quick runs, but you've got to make sure that obviously the point of impact, your body weight, you don't open up. You must have heard of the term hold your shape, and the holding your shape is all about making sure you don't open up early. The moment you open up early, your front portion of the body is, you take that away from the game. So everything then depends on the other half, right? The right-hand side for a right-hander. So you open up the front shoulder, you lose your shape, and then you lose a lot of power, and then more often than not, you start slicing as well. So you got to make sure when you're playing crossbat shot, ideally speaking, you maybe avoid it as much as possible. But if you are, then make sure you hold on to your shape for longer, and then you get power, and secondly, the timing as well. Chin music, well, that was a term very, very common back in the 80s and 70s, where you could bowl as many bounces as possible. And talking about bouncers, you might have guessed what am I talking about. When I said chin music, it is basically bowling bounces to the batters. So chin music, so most of the deliveries are going past your chin, past your head, and that's what chin music is all about. So obviously, earlier on, before 90s and all, where there wasn't restriction on the number of bounces you could have bowled in an over, that was very common. Remember the West Indian bowlers, if you've heard of them, God, yeah, that was actual chin music. You still get to see some of it, especially when you're playing in South Africa, Australia, not as much in the subcontinent or even England, because those pitches don't have as much bounce. But yes, Australia and South Africa, you still, and New Zealand to a great extent, you still get to hear, and especially certain venues like Perth and all, or Gabba, as in Brisbane, you see a lot of bounce. That's where you see a lot of batters bowling short pitch and making sure the batsman's kind of, on the back foot, pinned on the back foot more often than not. That's what chin music is all about. And if, as a batter, if that's what the bowler is trying to do, obviously there are few options that you've got, is letting it go. Make sure that when you're letting the ball go, you're watching the ball till the last moment. You don't take your eyes off. I know you've got your chest pad, your helmet, your arm guard, and everything else. But even then, just make sure you're watching the ball till the ball has gone past you. A lot of batters, you'll see they go head down, take your eyes off. Never ever do that, right? So that is the most important part. No matter what the bowler is trying to do, you always keep watching the ball. Then the other option is obviously the pull shot. Very rarely you get to see hook nowadays. Hook would be anything which is over your shoulder. Predominantly it's pull shot. So a very, very important aspect of pull shot is obviously you pick the right line and right length. But a lot of batters nowadays are pulling off the front foot. So keeping that in mind, just make sure your body weight is always going forward, even though I've seen a lot of batters, they're pulling off the front foot, but their body weight stays back. The moment your body weight stays back, your bat goes down, and the bat swing is from bottom to up. So the chances are you'll be hitting it in the air, and more often than not, you're not in control. So if you want to be a good puller, the most important part is your body weight. No matter whether you're hitting off the back foot or the front foot, your body weight has to be in front so you can get on top of the bounce. In top of the bounce, you can control it, you can keep it along the ground, you can hit it in the air, so you can do whatever you want to. Yes, at times you might get beaten by pace and you might have to adjust. Then also try and adjust with your arm, right? In terms of either a full stretch arm or a short arm jab, as we call it, but try and avoid to take that body weight off your front foot and onto the back foot. Just make sure it's on the front foot and you're top of the bounce. Corridor of uncertainty. Well, that's the area, the line we're talking about predominantly here, where the batter is kind of confused whether you're going to play at it or you're going to let it know. And what is that line? That line is around off stump to fourth or the fifth stump. As you can see this roughly with these cones, I've tried to kind of indicate what the corridor of uncertainty would mean. And as a batter, and why is it called the corridor of uncertainty? Obviously, you can see that corridor there. And uncertainty because you don't know whether you want to play at it or you want to let it go. Because a lot of the bowlers, they go wide of the crease, the angle brings them in. Even if they bowl around fifth stump, that angle, you want to play at the angle, right? So you really don't know what you're going to do. So that's the reason it's called the corridor of uncertainty. And as a batter, what you need to do is just make sure you play the line first, right? For example, like I said, you'll find a lot of away swinging bowlers who actually go wide of the crease. At this point in time, the best example of it is Jimmy Anderson. If you see, he goes wide of the crease and he gets the ball to swing from that corridor. And because of that angle, you're sucked into it. So you would have to. You can't let that go, because if it doesn't swing, the angle will make sure it goes and hits the stump. So you got to play at it, but what you got to do, number one, is make sure you don't push at it. Because the moment you push at it, you're exposing your outside edge. So you're covering the angle, but trying to play the angle, which is the first line. Make sure your bat is within yourself, your body, right? It's not pushed out. And the second and the most important thing is pray that you don't edge it. And if you still manage to edge it without kind of poking your bat outside your body, well, you've got to doff your hat to the bowler and say, well bowled, because at times those deliveries you really can't do much. So that's the corridor of uncertainty. Always try and play the angle is what I'd say, what I'd suggest. If it's leaving you and it beats your outside edge, good luck. Across the line, right. So when we talk about line, that would be line of the stumps. So you see the stumps, that's the line of the stumps. And it's very self-explanatory what across the line would mean. Across the line would mean the line of the stumps, any ball, from the line of the stumps, you kind of whip it on the outside. So you're playing across the line, all right? So playing across the line. So it's kind of self-explanatory. So a lot of batters actually, you'd see a lot of batters especially when their heads are falling, they can't help it, they're stuck, they go across, right? And they get stuck there, and especially against in-swing bowlers, and they kind of try and play across the line and they get out leg before bowled quite a few times. But in modern day and contemporary cricket, a lot of batters, good, and I'm talking about, when I'm saying good, I'm talking about greats here, let's say a Virat Kohli, a Joe Root, a Steve Smith. They are very dominant bottom hand. So if you have a dominant bottom hand, you would want to whip it because your onside would be your strength, right? And because of that, strong bottom hand, your onside game is strong. So you would want to whip it across the line. Anything straight. We've seen, for example, Virat. Even he whips it on the onside balls which are pitched on off stump or even outside off stump. But if you're doing that and your strength is that, I'm not going to suggest don't play that shot, but you've got to make sure your head is still two things: on top of the ball, not falling over. That's one. Secondly, your head in front of your front foot. So you're playing off across the line, but in front of your front foot. The moment you get stuck behind, then obviously chances are, if you don't time it, if you're late or early, you're going to get out. It's going to come and hit your stumps or your pad. So if you want to play across the line, which is fine, and especially bottom-handed, bottom-dominant batters, make sure your head's not falling over, that's one. And secondly, your head's in front of your front foot, so you can meet the ball in front of the pads. And you see a lot of batters do that with the DRS, because you anyways don't want to hit the ball to hit your pads. You want to play it in front of your pads. So please, if you're playing across the line, I would suggest two things: head not falling over, and head in front of your front foot so you can meet the ball in front of your front foot. Well, in cricketing parlance, when we're talking about fishing, we're not talking about the whole team going on a fishing expedition. So we're talking about when the batter, predominantly because of indecision, is playing away from the body, poking at the ball, And like I said, it happens primarily because of indecision. So your foot goes onto the first line and suddenly you see the ball moving or leaving you, you poke at it. You try and reach for the ball with your hands, with your body not going anywhere, your head not going anywhere. And especially it happens outside off stump, away going balls or balls which are straightened after, kind of coming in with the angle. You see a lot of batters going in there and then playing away from your body, right? Playing away from their body, trying to reach the ball or play the ball only with their hands. And more often than not, that leads to either the batter getting beaten or getting that outside edge. So, yeah, that, like I said, primarily happens because of a lot of indecision. For example, you don't know whether you should be playing off the front or the back. Foot doesn't go anywhere, but you can see the ball and then you want to play the ball with your hands. And that is the reason where, a lot of the batters, they get out. And they kind of look bad as well when you keep fishing. So to avoid that, obviously what you want to do is trust yourself. Yes, your decision making will not be 100% most of the times. You will make mistakes. You will, whether in terms of the length or the line, but you've got to trust yourself. For example, if a fuller delivery, you've got onto the front, you've decided to go onto the back foot, I would say don't go, but try and manage from there. Trust yourself, right? Same, if it's a short ball, you already committed yourself onto the front foot. Trust yourself, your body or your hands or your eyes will make sure you will be fine. And as we keep saying, try and play inside the box. So the box would be where my body is. So outside edge of my foot to my heel and the sides. So that's the box. If you can, obviously when you're taking that stride forward, that box increases. Try and get that bat, keep that bat inside the box. The moment your hands go outside the box, you don't have much control over your hand or your bat. So as long as you're playing inside your body, inside that box, you should be all right. You won't go fishing for sure. Quite a few really weird terms that we use in cricket, and one of them is cow's corner. Well, I don't know how this term came about in cricket, but I'm sure it's more than 100 odd years. It actually is a field position, a part of the field. So we've got long on, right, which is a very traditional orthodox field position, long on, and mid-wicket or deep mid-wicket. But what about the area between those two? And initially, when first I started at least playing cricket, cow's corner was kind of a derogatory term. So, you basically, if you want to reach that area between the long on and the mid-wicket, which is the cow's corner, the only shot, primarily the shot that would help you access that area was that slog. So it was frowned upon, obviously, playing across and slogging it. So a lot of these terms are kind of interrelated, right? Slogging, cow's corner, and which was frowned upon. But obviously, with T20 and even T10 and 100, a lot of players actually find it very, very useful. That's a very productive area of the field, the cow's corner, which absolutely coincides with your natural batting swing. For a right-hander, for me, it would be there. Obviously, for a left-hander, it's the other side. But because it's such a productive area, so which was a position, a shot, or whatever, which was frowned upon earlier on, it is kind of more traditional, or it's kind of mainstream now to a great extent, the cow's corner position, which is between long on and deep mid-wicket. And a lot of, like I said, a lot of batters, it's been very, very productive, that area. Predominantly, you see a lot of flicks, which is still fine. You kind of chip it or you flick it over, you step out. But more often than not, you're hitting across the line. So you see a lot of batters hitting across the line. Again, something which was frowned upon earlier on, but, well, it's a mainstream, it's one of the main shots nowadays. Good length. As the name suggests, any length, which obviously creates a lot of issues for the batters, a lot of problems or tough questions for the batters. That's a good length. Now, obviously, good length would be different for different batters. If I'm a front foot player, the good length would be a little on the shorter side. If I'm a back foot player, the good length would be a little fuller. So that would also depend a lot on the conditions. If it's a slower pitch, the good length would be a little fuller. If it's a quicker pitch, it would be further back, that length. But predominantly, before anything else, whether before you know who the batter is or how he or she plays, what the conditions are going to be, how the pitch is going to behave, The best way to figure out the good length is the length which hit top of off. The length which hit the top of off is where you start off with your good length. So ideally speaking, why is it called a good length? A good length is because that in between length where a batter does not know whether I should go on the front foot or play off the back foot. So somewhere around that 6 meter mark. So would be somewhere here. If I'm batting here, so it would be somewhere where the first ball is, where I really don't know whether I should, in fact, could go further back. So whether I should go in front or should I go play it off the back foot. So I'm a little confused. So that is what a good length is. But like I said, to start off with, when you don't know what the batter is, whether it's good off the back foot or front foot, the benchmark or the starting point is the length and the line that hits top of off. As a batter, again, the most important part is that is a good length because, as I mentioned, as a batter, it's very difficult to figure out or to kind of decide whether you want to play it off the front of or off the back foot. What I would suggest is trust yourself, decide quickly whether you want to go on the front foot or back foot, and then play it without second guessing yourself. There'll be times you're playing the same length of the back foot, next time you'll be playing off the front foot, but trust yourself, trust your judgment, back yourself and your instincts, and don't second guess yourself. Well, on the up, you see a lot of these shots being played on really good batting surfaces where you just plant your foot and hit through the line. And why do we say on the up? Because ideally speaking, when we're talking about playing off the front foot, what length are we talking about being the driving length? Where the ball's fuller, it's under your bat, and you can drive. But on the up or on the rise as well, we call it, is when the ball's pitched a little shorter, but you still go onto the front foot and you hit through the line, even though technically speaking or traditionally speaking, you should be defending those deliveries. But because you have that skill set, that's number one. Secondly, the pitch is so good that you can trust the pace and the bounce of the pitch so you can hit through the line. So obviously we see a lot of, especially in modern day cricket and limited overs cricket, the pitches are so good and so batting friendly that we see a lot of the batters actually without reaching the pitch of the ball, they can drive on the up. That means the ball is still rising, you get on top of the bounce and you hit through the line. Trust the bounce, trust the pitch, not doing much, not in favor of the bowlers too much, and you just hit through the line, on the rise or on the up. Down the track, well, it again is kind of self-explanatory. Down the track, so if this is the track, which the 22-yard or the pitch is, when you're down the track. So that could be for spinners, predominantly for spinners, or for seamers as well, because we keep talking about in the shortest format, the T20 100 or T10, we keep talking about crease management, where you try and get the bowler off his length by moving across or moving in front or going down the track. So that is what it's all about, going down the track. As a batter, it's very, very important. Firstly, again, spin, because obviously you don't want the bowler to kind of settle down, and especially that's such an aggressive and attacking option to a batter. A lot of the times, again, spin, it can also be a kind of a shot to get singles. I've seen a lot of batters, the only time they go down the track is when they want to hit a big shot. But good players again spin, they also go down the track to get singles. The idea is to make sure the bowler is aware that you will use your feet to come down the track and approach or get to the pitch of the ball. So what happens then? The spinner, as far as the spinner is concerned, he starts bowling flatter. The moment you start bowling flatter on generally decent pitches, it will not turn as much. It might not even bounce as much. It gets a little predictive, and it's going to come nicely onto the bat if the bowler starts bowling flat, right? And also, the moment the bowler starts bowling flat, chances are his length will also get a little shorter. So you use to use your feet to get to the pitch, also to get the bowler out of the length where he wants to bowl, right? So that's very important. Same with seamers as well. In T10, 100, T20, you've seen against good bowlers like, let's say, a Hazelwood or a Jasprit Bumrah or Mohammad Shami, who are good test ball bowlers, who bowl that test length. You see a lot of batters using their feet, not necessarily to hit an attacking shot, just trying to get these really good bowlers off their length. You don't want someone like Hazelwood to settle down there. So you've got to use your feet and do something. Just get that into Hazelwood or someone like him who's trying to settle down in an area that you're happy to use your feet and reach the pitch of the ball. The whole idea of going down the track is reaching the pitch of the ball. That's the predominant or the primary plan or idea. But not necessary all the time. At times you just do that to get the bowler thinking that you're happy to do it as well. You might not want to do it. For example, someone like me, I wasn't a very good player of coming down the track, but every now and then I would do it so that bowler knows that I can do it. Right? I don't necessarily have to do it. I was more of a back foot and a sweeper. As a guy who would play a lot of sweep shot against the spinner and play off the back foot. But every now and then, I would make sure that I would do that, go down the track, just get the bowler thinking about it. Now, obviously, the question is, when do you come down the track? If it's not predetermined, which a lot of players do that, they're predetermined, you've kind of figured out, or you're trying to get a quick bowler or a bowler off his line and length, so you predetermine going down the track. But to be a good batter who uses his or her feet well, I think the most important part, and you've heard this before, is any ball which goes above your eye line. So now you see a lot of batters who go down like that before the bowler's bowled, right? They just dip their shoulder. So the lower you go, I wouldn't say lower, if you go a little lower, so you've, one, figure out the length better, and secondly, anything which is above that eye line. So if that's my eye line, anything which is above that eye line, I would step out. Chances are it would be fuller, and chances are you would reach the pitch of the ball. So that's, again, a very basic thing, or kind of the starting point is the eye line. So if you are batting in the nets, try this. Go there, dip that shoulder, go down a bit, get into that position, and then anything which is above that eye line, and obviously you're wearing a helmet, the other thing, the eye line or your helmet. So the peak of the helmet. So anything which goes, any ball which goes above that peak of your helmet, try and step out, try and reach the pitch of the ball, go down the track. That's one thing. The other thing, which is next level, is which foot comes first? Is it the front foot or is it the back foot? Now, this is interesting. So there are different versions of it, and how I see it is, what area are you trying to access by stepping out? If you're trying to access cover, extra cover, mid-off, and you're trying to step out, to a leg spinner, okay, or a left arm spinner, anyone who's taking the ball away from you, you don't mind actually stepping out a smaller step with your front foot, and then the back foot going behind the front foot. So you get into that position to go over the cover, extra cover. So you're automatically, your front shoulder closes, right? So you take that small foot forward, and then the front foot goes behind. So look at my shoulder, it's already closed, right? And I'm in a really good position to hit over cover, extra cover. But if it's predominantly, trying to hit over the leg side, so it's easier. So you step out with with your body being a lot more open. Right? So ideally, this would be a normal position to step out. But if you want to actually go cover, extra cover, it'll be nice if you kind of close your shoulders a little bit earlier while stepping out itself. It'll help you keep that shape going for longer, especially if you want to access over covers or extra cover.
Be sure to check out Deep's Academy, link in the description below, and do tap or click the end screen to watch more videos I've filmed with him.